Today on the Tristen Law Show, I introduce you to a woman who has not only made history in 2020, but who has also achieved an accolade on the same level of WWE Hall of Famer Andre the Giant. Her name is Molly McCoy, and she's my guest. And that's today on the Tristen Law Show. Welcome to the Tristen Law Show, where I introduce you to the personalities in and out of the pro wrestling ring. The unique part is you don't have to be a pro wrestling fan to enjoy this podcast. If you don't believe me, well, I guess you're going to have to stick around until the end to find out. If it's your first time here, I just want you to take a little mental note. New episodes drop on Wednesdays. Welcome to episode 20. We've come a long way since episode 1 way back in August. I just want you to know that the best is still yet to come. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the grittiest girl in the game. And her name is Molly McCoy. She checks in at number 491 on Pro Wrestling Illustrated's top 500 pro wrestlers in the world. You're going to hear how she found out how she made the list, what made her want to train to be a pro wrestler, and much, much more. I'll be back with Molly, but in the meantime, head on over to TristenLawShow.com. You could get a shirt. You can find out more about me at the show. But I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I am Tristen Law, and this is the Tristen Law Show. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. That shirt you're wearing is so not cool. Why don't you head on over to TristenLawShow.com and get yourself a new shirt? Not only will you be cool, but you'll also be supporting the show. What are you waiting for? Go now and get a hat too while you're at it. Thank me later. We're the show at TristenLawShow.com. Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging around and sticking around. My guest at this time calls herself the grittiest girl in the game and the equal opportunity destroyer. She makes up one half of the tag team, the Outfielders, with Boomer Hatfield. She's been ranked at number 491 out of 500 top pro wrestlers in the world by Pro Wrestling Illustrated. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Molly McCoy. Molly, welcome to the Tristen Law Show. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Tristen. It's so cool to be here. And cool to be on the PWI.
You know, that's some pretty cool things that's happening this year. I think that women's wrestling has come so far, Molly, and I'm glad that you were able to be on the PWI 500 in the first year that they actually said that women will actually be added to the PWI. So it's pretty cool, and we definitely get into that. But Molly, you call yourself the grittiest girl in the game and the equal opportunity destroyer. Explain to my listeners what your monikers mean.
The grittiest girl in the game kind of started off as like a gag or a joke because hockey's always been my thing, and it just made sense to incorporate hockey into my character because it's like those are the two biggest things you got to know about me is that I'm a hockey player and I'm a wrestler. And being from Philadelphia, like as I was coming up through the training curriculum at the Wrestle Factory, Gritty was starting to become a meme. It was the first time that the Flyers had a mascot, and everyone was like, I fell in love with Gritty instantly. Oh my God. Everyone thought he was so creepy, and I thought he was like the cutest, sweetest thing. And one of my friends, the spoiler, said, you should call yourself the grittiest girl. And then I think somebody else had it on the grittiest girl in the game, and I was like, that's it. That's perfect. That describes me. Like, everything about me in one quick sentence. And then equal opportunity destroyer, I'd already had, like, I did a tiny bit of yarding before I went into and, like, started getting trained legit.
Right.
And it's just a play on equal opportunity employer. Like, I think I've had more intergender matches than I've had actual, like, women's matches. So it just made sense. It was like, I'll wrestle women, I'll wrestle men, I don't care.
You know what? Molly, it's good that you've actually mentioned that you have had a lot of intergender matches. Matches mean that you don't only wrestle women, you wrestle anybody of any gender. It doesn't matter. If they want to beat in, you're there offering it for free. But Pro Wrestling Illustrated's annual top 500 pro wrestler in the world has been targeted towards male wrestlers. Like I said, this year, PWI decided to add women to the top 500 with the qualifier that women have to wrestle men too. What were your thoughts on this change when you first heard it?
I was stoked. I get why it's only women that also wrestle intergender, because I guess like it's probably more just like you got more eyes on you when you're also doing intergender matches, and you're not just strictly like, because sometimes it's hard when like you're like, oh well, we've only got like one other woman for you, or like we don't have any other women for this show, we can't throw you on the show.
Right.
Like that's always been a struggle. And I get that the women's they just came out with the women's top 100, which is primarily for more women like in the WWE and AEW, who are mostly just wrestling other women, but are just as immensely talented.
And look at you thinking that you would never be able to possibly make this list because they put everybody on that list, the woman on the list that was dedicated to the woman, and now you're in the list for everybody, for all wrestlers. Like you've had people like Jacqueline Moore. She's been on that list before, and now you're a part of history. You're a part of the first year that this happened at number 491. You know, and if you ask me, I think that's amazing because, like I said, pro wrestling for women has come a long way from when I started back in 2009. I remember going to WWE events, and when the woman would come in, everybody would go to the bathroom. I'm like, sometimes you're missing the best match. Where are you guys going?
True. Anytime we talk about that too, I think about one of my favorite matches that I've seen on a WWE pay-per-view is a Trish Stratus and Jazz match. And it's only like 3 to 5 minutes. It's not a long match. Like I get really into it, and then all of a sudden it's over, and I'm like, man, that's it. I wanted to see them go like another 5 to 10, and then Triple H and Scott Steiner have like a 30-minute match right after, and I'm like, man, this is crap. I want more Trish and Jazz.
I 100% agree. Looking back at Trish and Lita and Trish and Molly Holly and all those girls going up, man, if those ladies those were the ladies that paved the way, and imagine if they were if they were still wrestling now, what the whole game would be like.
For sure. It's so cool getting to like say that I'm one of the first to do something along with a handful of other super talented women, because like when I was growing up watching wrestling, Chyna was my favorite. I loved Chyna. She was the first to do so much stuff, like first woman in the Royal Rumble, first woman to win the Intercontinental title, and it just felt like, you know, she created so many more opportunities for me and for other women. I was like, wow, she did it. Maybe there's a chance for me if I work as hard as she is.
And look at you, and you're working hard, and you're on the PWI this year for 2020. Molly, when you first heard of the change for the PWI 500, did you think that you would ever make the list?
No. No, I was really surprised just because I haven't been at it that long. I was training for a long time. I probably started training back like August 2015, I think. But I just wasn't picking up as quickly as, you know, some of my other colleagues. Like Boomer, I think was only training for about 10 months before he was getting put on shows, which makes total sense. Boomer's a fantastic athlete, but like I was picking up things a little bit slower, and it wasn't really sure where I was going to fit. So I didn't actually start having matches and getting on shows till like I think March of 2019. Yeah, so like to make the PWI after only being at it maybe about a year and a half, because I'd say like I think COVID cut out about like 4 or 5 months that I could have been wrestling. Yeah, to make PWI after only wrestling for about a year and a half is wild.
Hey, that's an amazing feat. I always tell people that I have been on PWI every single year. I've been 501, 502-ish, but they never published that one. So, You know, hey, I think
Right, the legendary 501.
that's right. They never give the 501s or the 502s any notoriety. So, you know.
They really got it.
So, I chatted with Mysterious Q. He wrestles with Booker T in Reality of Wrestling in Texas. In episode 11 is when I talked to him. He ranked this year at number 499, and he said that he found out in a group text that he was ranked. How did you find out that you were among the 500 this year at 491?
So, the story of how I found out I was on the PWI, and the story of how I just found out recently that I made Rookie of the Year too. Like the nominations for that, we don't know who Rookie of the Year is yet. But when I found out I was on the top 500, there was a Chikara regular who. A bunch of the Chikara regular fans have still been like following us and supporting us throughout our careers, which is super dope. Getting to see them still come out to shows. Like I just recently met one that's like, I think she's from the Midwest. That like I'd never run into her before this weekend, and it was super cool getting to run into her for the first time. But he had tagged a bunch of the women on Twitter that had made the list to be like, here's all these really cool women that made the list for the first time. And had me at the very end at 491, and I was like, pause. I was like, are these all the women that you wish made the list? Or like, did I actually make the list? He's like, no, you really made the list. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had to have like one of my friends send me a physical copy of the list, and that's when we found out that like my good friends like Boomer's on the list at 480 something. Still Life with Apricots and Pears. Matt Mikowski, Ian DeMorris, a bunch of those dudes made it. Travis Huckabee, like an insane amount of people that I've had the honor to train with have also made the list. And it was super exciting, as well as a bunch of people that I think do deserve to make the list. Like next year, you're going to see like Big Calix and Xavier Faraday and dudes like that on the list for sure. But and then Rookie of the Year, I was at my regular like day job. And because of what I do, I couldn't check my phone. I just felt it blowing up in my pocket.
Right.
So when you feel your phone blowing up, the first thought is usually, oh, crap, it's an emergency.
Right.
I better go check what this is. And instead, it's a bunch of people being like, congratulations. They're like, on what? What'd I do? And then somebody had sent me the Rookie of the Year blurb. And that was super crazy to see, too, because a bunch of my friends that didn't make the list, like Xavier and Joshua Wavera and Jody the Wrestler, are also in there, along with, like, Dominic Mysterio is in there.
Right.
Like, I'm in incredible company there.
You know, speaking about your regular job and your phone blowing up and stuff like that, it's so amazing, Molly. You were talking about how the regular fans for Chikara, how they were able to let you know because they followed you and they let you know. It's so amazing that some of us may not be known on a worldwide scale, but to some people, like, we're famous. Like today, walking through Walmart, somebody said to me, hey, that's the wrestler, Tristen Law. Like they were whispering to somebody. And it's like, man, I'm normally a heel, but I'm like, they spotted me. So I walked over, I said, hey, how's it going? And they go, oh my God, it's so nice to talk to you. And I'm like, my head, damn, man, I'm killing my heat right here. I'm like, okay, well, cool, see y'all later. I turned around and walked away.
Yeah, you know, I ran into Dom Guarini after a show once and kind of messed with him by doing that. Like, I turned down an aisle and was like, oh my God, is that Dom Guarini from Violence is Forever? Whoa, crazy. And he's like, no, somebody actually did that to me in this Sheets one. And he was like, hey man, big AIW fan, cool to meet you. And he's like, oh, what? People know who I am? Like, yeah, man.
Hey, I always tell people as well too, fame is on different levels. It doesn't have to be worldwide. But Molly, in your opinion, Molly, what occurred in 2019 for you to be added to the list, in your opinion?
I think my big, like, turning point for me, where people, like, started talking about me and noticing me, was King of Trios 2019. King of Trios was a crazy performance. To explain a little bit, King of Trios is an annual tournament that where it would be, like, I think it was 8, or it was probably more than 8. It was probably more like 12 or 16 teams of 3 in like a bracket style tournament. So I was on a team with my tag partner and cousin, Boomer Hatfield, and then his dad, my uncle, who now goes by the moniker of a very good professional wrestler. And we made it through round one, and that was the first time I got to wrestle Ashley Vox, along with I think Cajun Crawdad and Murloc were on the team too, and that was a super fun match. But then the next night we had the Colony, where we wound up losing to Fire Ant, Green Ant, and Thief Ant. And I broke down afterwards because it was super emotional and really difficult for me, as like I've always been the oldest sibling, the oldest cousin, and like I don't know if you're the oldest in your family, if you feel like if you've ever gone through that pressure of being the oldest, while like you feel like you can try your best and it's still not good enough, while the youngest one still gets like handed everything, it seems like, and they get away with so much more stuff.
Yep.
And like that's just kind of a lot of resentment that I held toward Boomer and very good professional wrestler. And I kind of just unleashed it all right there. And then I came back afterwards, and it was like a mix of like, yo, are you okay? And oh my God, that was incredible. Like, you should have seen the look on your face. And I was like, this is just what came out. I'm going to be angry. And I had people like blowing me up after that. That was kind of the first time like a few promotions had noticed me. Like, I'd gotten a message from Black Label Pro for the first time.
Okay.
And Boomer and I just debuted on there not too long ago at TurboGrafx. Like, things don't happen quickly, but it's definitely what got the ball rolling, I think.
That's pretty cool. Like, you were talking about your whole getting emotional in the ring, and I don't know if my listeners are feeling this, but like I felt goosebumps. Like I felt your emotion coming through on the other side, on my side, and it's that little bit of vulnerability that you showed in the ring that got you over to the next level. So I think that's pretty cool, and I'm glad that you were able to pinpoint what landed you in 2019 on the list for 2020. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That's the biggest compliment I can possibly get, is when people are like, that got a visceral reaction out of me, what you did. Like, not too long after that, I became friendly with J-Rose, who's an announcer out in the Midwest for a bunch of different promotions. Mm-hmm. And he and I were chatting, and he was like, your energy is what makes you so different from everybody else, because a lot of, like, baby faces will have just, like, this happy energy, or heels will just have an angry energy about them. And he's like, you got, like, whatever emotion you're feeling comes through in your faces, in your movements. Like, it's not just, you don't get stuck in one emotion. Like, you let everybody, like, see what you're going through. And that means the world to me. That's what I'm going for whenever I'm wrestling and trying to put on the best performance I can.
What I always tell new wrestlers, and what was drilled into my head a long time ago, Molly, your face is where you make your money. And girl, if you can keep those reactions coming through your face, you're going to be a millionaire. A millionaire.
Yeah. I had a trainer once tell me I had Muppet mouth and that I should keep it. Like, I got, like, my jaw will just, like, look like it's unhinged. And I'm like, I can't control that. That's just naturally what happens. And it looks kind of silly and like an overreaction. Like, you wouldn't look like that if you actually got punched in the face. Mm-hmm. But that's what comes out. And then somebody else actually wanted to put a mask on me, like, before I had started training, which, you know, in the Wrestle Factory where I come from, that's a huge honor to get given a mask. But so many of my trainers, like especially Hollow Wicked and Fire Ant, and then our head referee, Bryce Remsburg, were like, you'd be out of your mind to put a mask on her. And I have not worn a mask ever since.
Especially if you have facials the way that you have them, don't have a mask. But Molly, I want you to assert yourself right now. All right. The next question, I want you to assert yourself. If you can rank yourself anywhere on the 2020 PWI 500, aside from 491, where would you rank yourself and why?
Oh, geez. I mean, I was surprised that I even made 491 because, like, there were a lot of really talented wrestlers that were behind me, too. But if I had to, like, really seriously place myself, I wouldn't go, like, too far past 400. Like, I feel confident in, like, somewhere between 400 and 350. Because, like, I do believe in myself. I do think what I'm doing holds a lot of value, but I don't think I've shown enough of the world that yet. And I think, like, if you put me in the ring with some of those people that made it into, like, the 300s, like, I know Huckabee made it in there and Demora, so I'm like, I could really, like, shine against some of those dudes if given the chance and booked against them. I think I could prove myself.
Molly, do you understand what kind of history that you've made at being 491? Do you know who else made 491 on PWI?
No, I haven't looked, to be perfectly honest.
All right, so in 1992, WWE Hall of Famer Andre the Giant held the same 491 spot as you currently do in 2020.
What the hell?
Damn right, girl. Now you know. What are your plans to be included in 2021, and where do you rank yourself on PWI 500 2021?
Oh, man. It's hard to predict the future, especially, like, right now with COVID. Like, I got stuff coming up. I got plans. The big plan moving forward is I really want to establish, Boomer and I really want to establish ourselves as, like, a top tag team, as a tag team that you want on your show, and as one of the top intergender tag teams right now. And that's the biggest goal moving forward. So I would like to be able to put, like, myself and Boomer higher up there as, like, one of the really top tier tag teams. And if we can just, like, get out to even bigger promotions, if we can kind of, like, you know, stretch our creative muscles, do some matches that, like, with some stipulations we've never had before. Like, we've never done a 2 out of 3 falls. We've never done a no DQ. I had a hardcore match with Still Life, and that was the first time I'd ever done weapons or anything like that. I think I could stretch my creative muscle a lot more to bump myself up a few more numbers on that list. You know what I mean?
A 2 out of 3 tag match, I don't think that's anything that I've ever seen, but I think that would be amazing if done right. Like, I ran through the whole entire, I'm thinking about it, Molly. I'm like, how would that even work? And I'm sitting here formulating it in my head, how it would actually work. That would be really cool.
That was the standard in Shikara, where I came from. That was for every tag title match. Every tag title match was 2 out of 3 falls.
Really? You see, I'm not a big Shikara fan. One of my friends who has like 30,000 followers on YouTube, Dave Knows Wrestling, he covered Shikara.
Yeah.
Oh, you know Dave? Dave loves Shikara.
I am familiar. I've heard the name, yeah.
So he was telling me about it, and he was like, man, I was talking to him yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm going to have Molly McCoy on the podcast. He goes, oh my God, that's going to be so cool, because he's a Shikara guy. He's the one that was telling me that it's not Chikara, it's Shikara.
Yeah, right. It is the Japanese word for strength. Although I've heard some people say Shakira. That was incorrect. Chakra, also incorrect. Although I believe there is, I probably got her name wrong. I think it's Shakara, is a very good British wrestler who you should also check out.
But it's Chikara. That's what it is. That's what it was. And
that's what it is, and that's what it was.
He has a whole video on his Dave Knows Wrestling YouTube channel. He's going to be like, oh, you're putting me over. Of course, Dave, I'm putting you over. He has a whole video on his Dave Knows Wrestling YouTube where he talks about the history of Chikara. And I suggest anybody listening right now to go ahead and check it out.
Oh, yeah, because it is what drove a lot of people away was just how dense the history is. It was really like, it was a comic book. It was, every character has their own like specific backstory that somehow intermingles with somebody else's. It's a lot. It is a lot. And Dave's video probably helped break a lot of that ice that made it real difficult to get into it.
So make sure I understand this, Molly, is that Chikara, there are no throwaway characters. There's no characters there just to be there. Everybody has a purpose.
Absolutely not. Even Officer Magnum had a purpose, and that was to be a very good boy. Officer Magnum was a dog, by the way.
Molly, we know how you got into PWI, right? We've discussed that already at length. But how did you get into pro wrestling as a fan?
Ooh. So when I was younger, I was a little kid during the Attitude Era. If that, I'm sorry if that dates anybody, or that makes anybody feel old.
No, I was a teenager. I'm good.
Okay, good. I've had some people that are like, "Ooh, you're really making me feel old right now." I think my first exposure to wrestling. So during the Attitude Era was when wrestling really became mainstream.
Right.
So there were kids that were like doing the DX like suck it chop on the playground and doing like the NWO2 suite, and I was like, what the heck is, like, I know of it. I knew who Sting was, but I wasn't watching it until like my uncle, very good professional wrestler, was doing it and kind of like got a little familiar with what he was doing, putting on WWE for myself and Boomer, and then I saw Chyna and I saw Lita, and I was a big Hardy Boys fan, and I liked the characters that were just different, because I already, like, as a little kid knew, like, I'm a little bit different. I kind of like some weird stuff, like, and these are the characters that I'm gravitating to, because they also seem like a little weird and not, and like a little left of center. So that must have been like, I want to say somewhere between 99 and 2001 that I really like got into wrestling as a fan. And then I realized I wanted to be a wrestler and pursue that when I saw Chyna enter the Rumble for the first time, because she just looked so badass. And I was like, God, I want to be as strong and powerful as her. Because I was like a little chubby kid. I got bullied a lot, and I was like, man, she looks like nobody messes with her.
But you know what, girl? After I watched one of your matches that you did it was on YouTube, and from watching you go in the ring, I don't think anybody's going to bully you anymore. So, to your bullies right now, they can suck on an egg.
No, I'm pretty good standing up for myself now. Everyone kind of realizes, like, I can take a joke, but not to be messed with.
I agree. That's my whole entire philosophy. We can joke around, but just don't violate me. Once you violate me,
exactly,
I'll violate back.
Exactly. Like, I can take a joke, but like, I'll tell you when you went too far.
So, who were you talked about Chyna a lot. Besides Chyna, who else were your favorites to watch growing up?
Oh man, I got so when I was a kid, ECW was still coming on public access, and I loved Rob Van Dam. I thought he was super cool, and then funny story about how Raven became one of my favorite wrestlers when I was a little kid. And it was because he had like that long series with Tommy Dreamer.
Yes.
And initially I liked Dreamer because he was the good guy, but then he kept losing. So then I kept crying and getting upset whenever Tommy Dreamer would lose. And my mom was like, hey, you can't watch wrestling anymore if you're going to cry every single time that, that it's over. So I was like, guess I better start liking Raven. And that made sense in young child logic.
It's funny that you grew up in the heart of ECW and all those people molded you and put you into who you were now. Like growing up for me, I used to watch ECW late at night on public access.
Yeah.
And I remember staying up late to watch it. And like, if my mother knew what I was watching, I don't think she would have let me watch wrestling. Granted, she didn't want me to watch wrestling.
Definitely not. No way. My parents had no idea how bad it was. And even you go back now, some of it is still like it's kind of tame. But then you can look at other things, they're like, you can't do that in 2020. That's never gonna happen again.
You're sure? You're 100% right. A lot of the things that went on at ECW is taboo today, but
Right.
it's what got them. It's what got them over. They were the guys that and the girls that went against the grain. And like for me, I realized that a lot of the people when I started wrestling, a lot of the people that I was associated with and got mentored by and got helped by were from ECW. Bubba Ray
Right,
Dudley,
yeah.
Nunzio, Balls Mahoney, Tommy Dreamer, all those guys has given me advice, one time or another. And a lot of people may think that ECW was just this little wrestling show in the bingo hall in Philly, but they've made an impact on a lot of us and will continue in the future.
For sure. And like, even though ECW is remembered for, being the birthplace of hardcore wrestling, it's probably what helped the most for me when I was learning to talk. I used to be terrified to cut promos because I was I was very bad at improv,
Right.
and I couldn't just go off the dome. Like, I was like, I have to have, what I want to say ready to go. Like, I have to have these lines written out. I got to memorize it. And I still feel like a lot of my best promos are the pre-written ones. But what helped me so much in just getting better at structuring a promo was Steve Austin's promos in ECW when he left WCW. Mick Foley had some incredible promos. Terry Funk, Paul Heyman with his "This is a shoot." It's some of the best promo work I think across the board. Like, if you ever need help figuring out how to talk, how to not just have a "listen here, brother" screaming promo, those are it. That is how you get yourself over as a unique, different character.
You know what made those promos between Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Mick Foley so special?
What?
They were given the microphone and they were told, just go out there and talk.
Right.
And it came from the heart, like you said, fresh off the dome piece. They freestyled, and that's what they got.
Right, and that's where CM Punk's best promos came from.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Samoa Joe's best promos came from. That's just it's really just those guys let a lot of anger build up, and then it was like, all right, you can't hold it in anymore. Here's a live mic.
Hey, you know what, too, Molly? What makes promos so special in this day and age is because we all know, and I'm not talking about us as wrestlers. I'm talking about us as fans. We all know as fans what pro wrestling is, but if we're all sitting in an arena or sitting on a couch or in a bar and we hear a scathing promo cut, and we all look at each other and go, is this a work or is this a shoot? You know it's a damn good promo.
Right? It's relatable because we've all had somebody talk to us in that way. Or if you haven't, then you must be doing pretty well and not pissing a whole lot of people off. But it's so fascinating now, especially with promos, because I am non-binary and consider myself a part of the LGBT community. Mm-hmm. That we also in that community we have reading and shade, which is pretty much just cutting a promo on each other, just picking something about the other person and being like, your wig looks stupid, and a better read than that.
Right.
That but I've noticed the more that wrestling opens up for LGBT fans and for wrestlers to shine as well, we've gotten a lot of our own events. We just had Effie's Big Gay Brunch.
Yep.
MV Young does his polycult parties, where a lot of those fans are now feeling all right, it's not just a hyper masculine wrestling show. I feel comfortable coming out here and being myself because I'm seeing myself. And there's just, like I said, there's so much crossover between reading and promos are not super different. It's going to the ball, honestly.
When I left pro wrestling, right, I took a step back a couple years ago before I decided to step back into it. And my listeners, they know the story. I don't think they've known the full story because I've never gone into it, but it's not about me. But I remember when I was in pro wrestling, being in the LGBT community, there were a lot of people that were secretive about it. When I came back into pro wrestling, I didn't realize how many of my friends were in the community. I interviewed Prince Akhenaten on episode 7, and he was one of the people. When I came back, he was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm bi." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Dude," I said, "before we even continue, I just want to let you know you're still my brother. I don't care, and I love you." But like, I didn't know that. And he was like, "Yeah, man, it's always been like that." Did you?
Yeah, I was very fortunate that where I grew up, like I went to a weird school that was like maybe a third art kid. So I had that privilege of being able to come out as bi around like 14, 15 years old, and then as non-binary around like 18.
Right.
But it was still like, it was just a completely different world. Like it was a completely different like way to act. It was, I tried like being like, hey, I kind of prefer they, them. Like, would you guys be cool using that? And people would just mess it up all the time. And I would just be like, all right, you know what? It's not a big deal. I'm going to stop. Now I can put in my Twitter bio, like, hey, she, her, or they, them. Like, if you could use either of those, that'd be great. And people understand that.
I think it's a lot more understanding in 2020 than in 2010, and I'm so glad because one of my friends at work, he identifies as LGBTQ+, and I love that guy. You know, like, and I wish the whole world would understand. And I'm not trying to stand in the soapbox, but I wish the whole world would understand, because of who you love or who you choose to love doesn't make you a bad person. Learn to love people for what's happening on the inside of them, and everything else doesn't matter.
Right. Seeing like wrestling become less male and less white and less straight has been the absolute best part of the last couple of years for me. To see these workers that you wouldn't get to see all the time thrive, and people that like I wouldn't have known anything about if they weren't, if we weren't getting given our own events or even making our own events.
Right.
Has been super cool to see.
Because, Molly, I'm going to tell you this. Obviously, I'm black. It's not no secret. If anybody's looking at my picture, I'm black. And I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and obviously it's the hood. But one of the things I never want to do, Molly, is be typecasted to play a gangster or a thug. I'm not a gangster, and I'm not a thug. And, you know, if I was in a movie, I don't want to be a drug dealer. I don't want to be like the deadbeat dad. I just want to be like a regular guy. You know, for the lack of a better term, I can't think of one, but I don't want to be like Bill Cosby. I want to be like the character, not the man. The character.
No. Right.
I want to be
just want to be America's dad.
That's it. That's what I want to be. You know, I don't want to be what you think I am. And I could relate so much because you don't want to be what people think you are. You want to be who you feel that you are.
For sure.
While everyone is working behind me to make the Tristen Law Show better, I wanted to take a quick time out to ask you to subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, rate the Tristen Law Show 5 stars and leave a review. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, Molly, back to wrestling. What was the moment that you said to yourself, Molly, you've got to do this?
I was almost done with college, and I was getting a degree that I didn't really care about, that I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. Also, the job market wasn't that great, so there weren't a ton of jobs available to begin with. And I was just like, I think I was still working at Starbucks at the time, and I was miserable there. And I was like, man, there's still wrestling. Like, I had kind of gotten out of it for a while in college, and then rediscovered it and was like, man, I'm not getting any younger. Like, I should probably really try this before I get, you know, too old, because I didn't start at like 18, 19, and so many of my favorite wrestlers, it was like, they got started wrestling at like 14.
Lucky them.
And, right, yeah, exactly. Well, maybe not lucky them, because they got a lot of injuries, like, following that. But, I was just like, man, life's too short to be miserable. I gotta make something of myself. And I felt like the women's revolution hadn't really taken place yet, but I was like, I feel like I have something to say as a like non-binary but female presenting wrestler, that I could be like Alita. I could be somebody that, isn't quite what is expected. That like there's a little girl in the audience who's going to look at me and be like, that's me.
Yep.
Like that's what really drove me to be like, all right, I'm going to find a training school.
So we're going to jump in the time machine and we're going to go back to your first day in pro wrestling school. Walk us through what it was like for you at your first day in pro wrestling school.
Oh, I had a big panic attack before. I have anxiety. I've had it for like over half my life, and it used to be way worse than it is now. But I do still, like, every once in a while I get a panic attack. I take CBD oil every single day for it, and the day of my very first day of training, I had this awful panic attack because I was so scared to go to a new place. And I think the one thing I kept saying was, what if I'm not good? Like, what if this isn't for me? I don't know what to do if this isn't for me. Like, this has to work. And so I think I took my first bump, which was just like a casual, easy little back bump. And I was like, well, it wasn't so bad. I could get used to that. I did, like, whip my head a few times, so I learned real quick not to do that and to keep my head tucked.
Yep, tuck your chin, kid.
Yeah, other than that, and running the rope sucks because I'm short. That was really crappy to learn. But I had a couple other short girls, like, teach me some tips and tricks for, like, here's what you do if the ring is too tall. Here's what you do if the ring's too short. And it's helped me immensely. But early on, the top rope would always, like, either hit, like, right in the middle, like, right in the top of my back, like across the shoulder blades, or like right in the neck. Yeah, it's brutal. That's not fun. I don't hit the ropes in a lot of times in my matches because, like, half the time the ring will just be too high.
And the best wrestlers don't have to hit the ropes. It wasn't something that they did back in the day. So, it works. It works.
True. Yeah, now we got stuff like Bloodsport, and we had a whole stable called the Crucible where, like, every single match was no ropes. So it really just, like, depends on your style. Like, I don't whip people a lot of times in matches because I'm tiny. I can't whip people. They're bigger than me. And that's my style. Now, like, there's been, this resurgence of technical wrestling where you don't have to depend on a lot of the tropes. And there's just so many characters now that their character work is ultimately what you're going to remember more so than any of the moves that they do.
That the anxiety that you were talking about, Molly, in your first day in pro wrestling school, when you were saying to yourself, what if you're not good enough?
Yeah.
You sat here and gave me a self-realization, because I 100% in my heart, Molly, know that I could be in WWE or anywhere, Impact Wrestling, but I always said to myself, man, what if I'm not good enough? I remember going for a tryout for Ring of Honor, and it's like 2013. Girl, I went there, I was like 275 pounds, but Jim Cornette and Kevin Kelly, they pulled me in the back and said, dude, you move good for 275. Lose some weight, come back and see us. We want to see what you look like. Girl, I went out to 235 pounds, and I never went back.
Why didn't you go back?
Because I always said to myself, what if I'm not good enough? Girl, I could have submitted for WWE tryouts and go try out and stuff like that. And I always felt like I missed those opportunities because I'm just going to keep it 100% real, because this show's about the personalities in and out of the ring. I was always afraid. I'm not going to lie. I was always afraid. Could I make it to the next level? I feel that I'm intelligent enough to make it to the next level. But at 35 compared to 25, I have a lot more confidence in myself, and I try to instill that in people. And Molly, I want you to, even though I know anxiety is kicking your butt, I want you to not be like me, and I want you to chase your dream and go ahead and make that money, because it's possible for you.
I'm working on it. I still, like, I'll still get crazy imposter syndrome all the time to be like, man, I don't know how I got this far. When I heard that I was going to be in Young Lions Cup, when I made that tournament, I was like, I don't know how I did this. I don't know how I convinced y'all to let me like go for this. And I had told like some of my friends that were also wrestling in it, and they were like, because like we worked for this, because like our trainers saw it, and like even if you know in your head are like, man, I don't know about that, like if you've got good people backing you up, and I had great trainers in like Hollow Wicked and Fire Ant that really like saw something in me when I didn't necessarily see it myself, that is also what helped push me to the next level. So like just having great trainers and mentors has helped me so much.
And it's all about that foundation, and it seems like you've got a good foundation as well too. Only if we can go back. But Molly, knowing what you know now, how would you have prepared for pro wrestling school?
It's the one thing that I still really struggle with, and I'm not afraid to say I struggle with it, but just diet and exercise. Like, it's not, I wish I could make it a hobby the way that some people are like, this is just what I enjoy doing outside of the ring. And I'm like, it's really difficult for me. I know it'll make me feel better,
right,
you know, if I go for a run. And I like to get outside and take walks in nature. I do feel better after a hike and like working up a sweat. But like, it's definitely not easy to like, you know, not like grab the extra, you know, slice of cake or something, or like get myself out of the house. It's been the plus side to the pandemic is that it makes me not want to stay in the house all the time. So then I go for like a lot of walks and runs, but I wish I could have pushed myself a little harder to do that prior to starting pro wrestling training. And I think that's across the board. A lot of people have told me the same thing, where I've been like, why don't you like come and take class? Well, I feel like I really want to get to this weight first, or I don't feel like my cardio is great, which like understandable. In that early training, like that is what's really important until you find your style and what works for you. I get that.
I think that's a struggle for me now as well too, is the whole diet and working out part. Like, don't get it wrong, I like the gains when I get them, but girl, let me tell you, I love food. I love food.
Right? I love food.
Somebody tried to offer me cake the other day. I said, let me tell you something. I'm not fat because I eat cake. I'm fat because I eat steak. I eat a lot of it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I do. I love red meat.
Oh my God.
I can't stop.
Okay, so you know what? So far, I feel like we're becoming BFFs really quickly. So I want to ask you a question about steak, all right? Yeah. There's only one way to eat a steak. What way is it?
Medium rare.
We're not friends anymore.
Okay, that's fine. Because I'm going to stand by that.
Fun fact, if you ever go to Ontario in Canada, you cannot order a burger anything than well done. Remember that.
That's strange.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know if I like that.
Yep.
For a good chunk of my childhood, I lived in Vermont, not too far from the Quebec, Montreal, like the Montreal border. And I had never heard of nothing like that. I guess it's just a Ontario thing.
Oh yeah. You can't get a steak. I mean, not a steak. You can't get a burger anything than well done, because they feel that any bacteria that is on the chuck, once you grind it up, it's all over. I'm like, yeah, that's stupid. I'm from America. I want it rare. That's how I like my beef.
Okay, like I see what they're getting at, but I disagree. I respectfully disagree with that one.
I agree. Molly, how did you develop your gimmick or character?
It was kind of like thrust upon me that it was like, well, you're the hockey person. It just makes sense for you to be like, continue to like just bring the hockey thing into wrestling. And it made more sense when I was consistently like paired with Boomer all the time. And there was never any kind of a plan for us to be a tag team, because the thought was just that we were never going to get along again and always hate each other.
Right.
But it's just now being the sports team just makes a lot of sense. now being like the jocks who are not super meathead jocks has kind of become our thing. That we are like the consistent underdogs. It's a very like Philly thing to be like the underdog tag team. It's something that like kind of sucks. That was already how I was punching, is the same way that they do in hockey. It's I've tried to incorporate more of it into my wrestling, even though there's not a ton of stuff I do from hockey beyond the like big hip checks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of just been a slow process of, here is the basic, like here's a mold of like this hockey character. Now, where do different individual parts of my personality fit in here? Like, when do I start telling people like, hey, I'm also LGBT and would like to like find a space for myself in like these queer spaces within wrestling? And then like, how do I incorporate, like, I have a lot of different kind of weapons that can like come along with my gimmick. How do I get more into like street fights and hardcore stuff? Not necessarily death matches, but we're not counting out death matches either. Like, it's been trying to figure out how to fill out this mold and then how to expand from there. Because it wasn't necessarily a decision. It was just, this fits you. This is what you're going to do.
Molly, knowing you're an equal opportunity destroyer, meaning you beat all genders, in your opinion, what makes a good opponent for you?
Someone who comes with ideas, who I have time to kind of like roll around a little bit with beforehand. Like, I hate getting to a show with like an hour before doors and everyone's trying to get in the ring at once. Like, if I can get some time to like roll around beforehand, we can like test out some of these moves to be like, all right, like what kind of a base are you going to be, or what kind of a base can I be for you? Mm-hmm. Anytime like we're both coming with ideas, if we've like met before and talked wrestling before, and then we get to see like, oh, we're booked against each other for this. Like, cool. We already have an idea of like what each other one likes and the type of matches that they like to have. We can come up with a cool story from here. Because like in the case of like, I think I've wrestled Still Life with Apricots and Pears more than anyone else. And by like our fourth match, I was like, cool, we have a really good chemistry here. Like, we're able to follow each other really well. We're able to communicate effectively. That's like an ideal opponent, really. Like, you got ideas that we can bounce off one another, and like, you're easy to come to, you're easy to find. Like, we stay focused and on track for calling this thing, because sometimes you'll have somebody who's just like, oh yeah, I got an idea for this. Let me wander off over here. Like, no, we're in the middle of calling this right now. Come back, please. But focus and ideas. Those are the most important things to me.
I like that. Molly, what are your goals for pro wrestling? Your overall goal for pro wrestling?
The big goal that I really try to keep in mind is I just want to have fun and go cool places with my cool friends. I just want to be able to have matches with all of my friends. I've been so fortunate to meet a lot of really awesome people that are not just like central to the Northeast where I am. I have a lot of like really dope friends out in the Midwest that I would love to wrestle. I got a lot of cool friends that I've made along the West Coast, if I can ever get out there. That's really just a goal, like, is to see other places and, you know, kind of to dip my foot into other scenes and not just feel stuck in this Northeast bubble. Getting signed would be crazy. Like, it's definitely not off the table. I would love to at least be able to have a tryout and like do what I feel is the best I possibly can at a tryout. And if I make it, that's just the cherry on top, you know. To be able to have fun and wrestle my friends while making a living wrestling, which I feel like is more possible now, like more than ever, especially after like we've seen the Young Bucks do it. Yep. And a ton of other people. one of my trainers, Dustin, Chuck Taylor, like, has never worked a regular job that isn't wrestling in his adult life.
Must be nice.
That's absolutely a goal, right? Like, maybe there's times where it's like, I don't know, maybe you should look into what you're doing. He's like, nope, gonna keep just doing this wrestling thing. Like, that is the most important thing to me, is being happy, getting to wrestle my friends and see cool places, and like making it my regular job, which I think is most wrestlers' like big goal, is to say, this is my job and my only job.
100%, 100%, Molly. If I could make pro wrestling my regular job, I would have no other distractions aside from maybe podcasting. So what I would do, I mean, I would live in the gym. I would still eat steak. I wouldn't be as soft as I am now, you know, physique wise. But like, if it's my only job, at that point, I don't have any excuse but I would live. Girl, I'm talking about, I've been looking at some of these guys on Facebook and in Instagram and Twitter, and they're saying, oh yeah, I spent 3 hours in the gym today. Like, golly, like I worked 12 hours today and the gym is already closed.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess I'll do some push-ups in the house.
Sure. Also, I don't think you have to spend 3 hours in the gym. I think you can be just effective in a half hour, but like, if spending 3 hours in the gym is what makes you happy, go for it. That's the most important thing. You're healthy and you're happy. Like, nobody can knock that.
I 100% agree. You're standing in front of top brass for AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact, whoever.
Oh, geez.
What makes you the best person to be signed to a contract?
I got that vulnerability that I'm just real openly me, honestly. I got that energy that a lot of other people are too scared to bring. I just put all of myself into whatever the story is. And my goal is always more so the story than the moves. Like, the moves part is cool. Having a gift that, you know, can circulate all over the internet, you know, go a little bit viral, that's dope. But, like, I would much rather, like, be able to have a promo that I'm super proud of go viral, or have, like, an after-match moment that, like, AEW or WWE or Impact could look at and be like, man, I need that on my show. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody else has done something like that. Nobody else has made me feel that way. And that's what I need on my show. I think that's, like, my biggest strength. And I could always, like, put some more effort into the moves. I could always, like, start to, you know, get a little more creative and think of something different. I want to have a hot move that people gift. That'd be super cool. But that's me. That's my vulnerability, I think, is my golden ticket.
I like that. Because, especially when you talked about the whole moves part, like for me, I was brought up to tell the story, because that's a part, that's the vulnerability. Tell the story. And I'm thinking about it for me as a wrestling fan. I could sit here and we can talk about WrestleManias from now until the cows come home. And I can't tell you spot for spot in a match, but I can definitely tell you how I felt when Shawn Michaels gave that super kick to Ric Flair in WrestleMania 24 in Orlando that ended Ric Flair's career. I can tell you about that moment. I can tell you how I felt when Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 34, whichever one that was in 35 in MetLife when I was there live, and I cried in person. I can tell you exactly how I felt when Stone Cold Steve Austin had to keep fighting uphill to win that championship. So for me, it's the stories that I feel that matters, and that's what I try to tell the young guys. Yeah, moves are nice. Moves are great. They're perfect. They're beautiful. That's great. But you can pull anybody in the street and tell them, do some moves. But can they put it together and tell an effective story? And I've watched one or two of your matches, Molly, and I feel that you can do that. I've watched you.
Thank you. It's the one major thing I'm going to miss about Chikara, and I think a lot of my friends that also came from there have said the same thing, is how intense and important the stories were. That, like, you know, when you read, like, the sheet in the back, it'll just say, like, oh, you know, 8 to 10, have fun. And it'll be like, man, I want to tell, like, a cool story out of this, but, like, every single show that I did get the opportunity to do with Chikara, there was some like bigger story that I was getting across, and that made the work more fun for me.
Right. I 100% agree. 100% agree, because on the indies, a lot of people don't know, it's just going out there and just, sometimes you're just a match just to have a match. And like for me,
and that's fun too. Like, not knocking that.
Right.
Sometimes I do just want to go out there and have a sweet match and just do fun stuff. But like, it gets kind of old after a little while. It's like, man, you don't want anything else out of this. Like, what do you want people to feel after this? I don't know. I want them to clap. No, like anything else.
Like for me, now that I came back to wrestling, and I've been back for maybe about 3 years now. I don't know. I'm not counting. But one of the things that I like to do is I like to work younger wrestlers. I like to work the newer wrestlers, because I feel like I'm in a situation to where when I was younger, when I first started wrestling, Molly, all I cared about was winning. Oh, I have to win. I have to win. I have to win. But in the grand scheme of things, like if I lose in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, and I go to Buffalo, New York the next night and I wrestle, those people don't know whether I won or lost the night before.
Right.
So I was so caught. Right, they don't care. I was so caught up in that. But like my whole thing is that now, as an older wrestler, I want to give the opportunities to the younger wrestlers, since I'm an older wrestler, that the older wrestlers were trying to give to me, but I didn't understand. Look, kid, it's just about going out there and just getting over. So I don't need to win. I just need to get over and let you go over if that's what you really want to do. And in the process of you going over, winning the match, I'm going to get you over to where people believe your gimmick a little bit more.
Right. That's part of that's part of what was shocking about the PWI is I know a lot of it is based in wins and losses, and I'm like, damn, I don't win a lot of matches. That's people a lot of the time, like, I don't want to say they want to see me lose. Sometimes they want to see me lose, but like, people like get more behind me when it's like, damn, she put up a really good fight, but like still couldn't quite like get the job done. Because then you want to like see me again, or you want to see me in Boomer, like still try to like we didn't get it this time, but eventually we're gonna be able to snag the win, and you're gonna be there for it.
So Molly, if you could become, well, I don't want to say if you could become, when you become the top talent in the world of pro wrestling, hopefully you'll make $1 million in 1 year. If that was the case, what would you do with the money?
Save a lot of it. Find a good it would help if I knew what they were called. The people, financial advisor. I gotta find a good financial advisor first. Probably buy my parents their house. That'd be my big major one, because even if that's not where they want to spend the rest of their lives, it would be nice just to have that house, and then like I could rent for them wherever it is that they want to like go retire to. But that would be, I think that's my number one to do with a milli is buy my parents their house. And I don't know, maybe buy Candy Lee her boat. She really wants a boat. I might get her a boat. Then I can stop hearing her ask for a boat. You deserve a boat.
Who is Molly McCoy?
Who is Molly McCoy? Oh my gosh. She is large and contains multitudes. That's a quote from Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass. I am a pro wrestler. I am somebody's daughter and sister and cousin. I am non-binary and tattooed and just trying to figure out where I fit. And I think I'm on the right path, and I feel really good about where I'm going. Is that deeper than you wanted? I feel like you wanted a deep answer.
No, I want exactly what you gave me.
That's what I am. I think that's who Molly McCoy is.
I don't think that's who Molly McCoy. I know who Molly McCoy is because that's what you told me.
Yeah, that feels good.
What's next from Molly McCoy?
Oh, Molly McCoy has a couple of fun matches coming up. A lot of tag matches, like I was saying. You can catch me and Boomer Hatfield on a couple of shows. Boomer and I are doing a couple of fun things. I got a couple like fun little shows that I'm gonna be doing that I can't say anything about yet. But I'm really into spooky season, so that's got me very excited to do some spooky stuff for wrestling. We got a new shirt out where it's literally just our faces on top of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash's faces, and that's where the outfielders came from.
I popped for that. I saw that.
I'm super proud of it. Dude, we whipped it out at Black Label Pro, and like so many people just reacted so well to it and popped hard for it. I was like, because Boomer didn't want to put it on a shirt at first. He was just like, this is a funny joke that I just sent you. It's not even my best Photoshop. But I was like, nope, it's a shirt. It's a shirt.
It's a gimmick. And Molly, I see it, and I love it. How can people get that shirt?
It is on Boomer's Big Cartel. I believe it's boomerhatfield.bigcartel.com. Boomer Hatfield was fortunate enough to get his name as his Twitter handle, so that just is his Twitter handle. My Twitter handle, however, is _ Molly McCoy _ because there's a lot of Molly McCoys on Twitter. Who would have thought? I should have picked a crazier name, or like I shouldn't have just gone by Molly McCoy. I should have been like the Macho Man or something, but that might have already been taken.
Well, Molly, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I think Molly McGillicuddy would be a great one. Hey, don't listen to me. What do I know?
True. Shout out to Beulah.
That's
shout
right.
Shout out to Curtis Axel now, the former Michael McGillicuddy. Yeah, that name's got solid lineage.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Molly McCoy. She's the greediest girl in the game, an equal opportunity destroyer, and she's number 491 on the 2020 PWI 500. Molly, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you. Last words before you go?
And I'm up for Rookie of the Year for PWI, but you should vote for Saya because she is super dope and you should watch Stardom.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere because when I get back, I'm going to give you my thoughts on this interview, and I'm going to let you know who's going to be here next week with me on the Tristen Law Show. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. That shirt you're wearing is so not cool. Why don't you head on over to TristenLawShow.com and get yourself a new shirt. Not only will you be cool, but you'll also be supporting the show. What are you waiting for? Go now and get a hat too while you're at it. Thank me later. We're the show at TristenLawShow.com. Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show. We're looking to promote your band or brand here. So contact the show at TristenLawShow.com or TristenLawShow@gmail.com. What did you think about Molly? I'll tell you this. It was my first time talking to her. I've never met her before. And I'll tell you that she's cooler than the other side of the pillow on the hottest day in the summer. If you don't know her, you can say that you met her here on the Tristen Law Show first. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas but celebrate Kwanzaa, Happy Kwanzaa. If you don't celebrate Christmas or Kwanzaa, Happy belated Hanukkah, which ended on the 18th of December. If you don't celebrate any of those holidays, Happy Festivus. Is that even a real holiday? Something for me to Google. Next episode, I'm going to introduce you to a man that you can see on AEW Dark on YouTube. If you don't believe me, search him up. His name is Ryan Rembrandt. And you'll want to be able to hear everything that he has to say. You can only hear it on the Tristen Law Show. If you like this episode, I need a favor from you. Yes, I am talking to you. Share this on your favorite social media platform, and don't forget to tag myself or the show. Don't make this be the thing that you do. Let's make this be the thing that we do. You can also walk up to a random stranger and tell them to listen to the Tristen Law Show. Yeah, they may think you're crazy, but who cares what other people think? fine. If you're worried about being judged, go on over to TristenLawShow.com and at least buy a shirt because people will think that you're really cool. Rate the Tristen Law Show 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and leave a review, please. Reviews mean a lot. Whichever podcast platform you're using to listen, please subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. And the best part is that it's free. Learn about myself and the Tristen Law Show by typing TristenLawShow.com in your internet-enabled device for more info. I'll be waiting for you next week. And I am Tristen Law, and this is the Tristen Law Show. And until next time, adios.